Hey, Steve.
Yes, Mark?
Do you ever have to take your kids in a long drive?
Yes, I do indeed, Mark.
And 5 miles out the road, you wish you never had kids ever?
Are we nearly there yet?
I've got a solution for you.
Oh, yeah?
Why don't you head on down to audible.co.uk and get a book for them to listen to while you drive?
No.
Yeah, they can do that now. They have the technology. And they're willing to use it for us. Sean?
Yeah?
Have you ever been on a date that wasn't going very well?
Oh, yeah, a bunch.
Well, luckily for you, at audible.co.uk, you can download books right to your mobile device. We're talking iPhone, Android, anything you want. So when the conversation goes stale, you just bring out 50 Shades of Grey and play it on random. And you're back on track.
Thanks, books.
No, but I'm not finished. I'm only just getting started. But the
There's
good news
more.
is, the good people here at Is It a Bicycle, we've teamed up with audible.co.uk, so you get a free audiobook of your choice. You know the way people say the book is better than the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why not try it out? Gone Girl is just been released on audible.co.uk. Why not sign up at audible.co.uk/isitabicycle, download Gone Girl, then go out, watch the movie, and listen to our review.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Then when one of your friends goes, which is better, the book or the movie, you go, well, I can answer that question.
How much does this cost? Like $1 million?
You know, Sean, I'm glad you asked me that. Because the first book that you get, if you go to audible.co.uk/isitabicycle, will be completely free. And it's yours to keep, whether you decide to cancel in the trial period or not.
Okay, there has to be a catch.
I'm afraid, Steve, there's no catch.
What?
I'm surprised Mike didn't say that. He's the one that likes to talk about catches all the time. Free
Yay.
books. And in case I didn't mention it, audible.co.uk/isitabicycle. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk, Steve.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Lads, I don't know what film you were watching, but it wasn't the same film I saw.
I'm all the man you need, Mark.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked and appalled.
So I'll bring it up, Ted.
It wasn't a very good movie. I laughed at it more than I laughed at The Possession.
Good evening and welcome to Is It a Bicycle, Season 7, Episode 15, the original and bestest ever TV and movie podcast from Ireland. My name is Stephen Wrigley and I'll be your host for this evening. Beside me is a man who says he wishes jelly babies would scream when you eat them. It's Mike McDonough. Live from Vegas, we have a man who this week wondered what don't touch is in Braille. Leonard. In the blue corner, it's our cuddly killer, a man who this week told his wife that he wanted to be cremated, so she's booked him in for next Wednesday. It's Mark, 3-year-old. This week we hope to discuss some movies in the form of The Equalizer and Dead Snow 2 Red vs. Dead, and some TV in the shape of How to Get Away with Murder and The Driver. Of course, we'll have the usuals, previews, and coming to a bicycle near you. So how are we doing?
You know, it seems to work better when I try to deliberately fuck you up.
For the people not actually in the room while we were recording this, Mike was touching Steve inappropriately. Now this episode has replay value, because you can just imagine it again.
So sometimes it's better that we're just audible only.
Yeah, most definitely. So, keep your hands to yourself, Mike. Who saw the All-Ireland hurling final?
Yes.
And was it great?
No.
Oh, the wrong people won?
Yes, the wrong people won. Again.
Yeah. So it's Kilkenny won.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great for sport. Hurling won.
Yeah, I think we should just force Kilkenny to play Gaelic football for a few years. So they'll know how it feels to lose over and over.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable. Looking forward to next season already. What else was on other sport? UFC, Mark.
Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Yeah. It wasn't the main event, but it might as well have been.
May as well have been, indeed.
Biggest statistic everyone's talking about this week, to me anyway, is that 10% of the tickets for the MGM Grand, where the event was on, were sold in Ireland to Irish people who then flew to Vegas for the fight.
You're kidding me.
I swear to God, like, wow. Conor has to be the biggest draw around at the minute.
Wow.
So Conor dismantled Dustin Poirier in about 1:40 seconds. Annihilated him. He took out the top 5 guy in the world like he wasn't there. I don't know if any of you saw the press picture that presumably someone in Connor's camp put out. It was a picture of Dustin Poirier standing on rail tracks and Conor McGregor in his suit holding an Irish flag standing at the front of a speeding locomotive was heading toward him. So when I saw that, I said, that's a bit over the top, lads. This guy's top 5. But geez, when you saw them in the cage together, it looked exactly like that. So it was really, really good and so interesting what it does to that division now. Conor went on then in the post-fight press conference to say that he was in a division filled with novices and has-beens. And that he was the only real fighter in the division.
He's still got it.
Yeah, well, he has.
The other highlight of that UFC was, for me anyway, was Dominic Cruz, who it's his first time back in 3 years. And again, he just absolutely annihilated his opponent, who's not, what's his name? Mitsugaki, is it? Japanese guy? Can't remember. Yeah. And, I mean, it was like 40 seconds.
Right.
Or something like that, yeah, or a minute and 15, something like that. But he's, after being out for 3 years, incredible. Another one, who's gonna be back on top, of course, very soon. But yeah, great UFC. I mean, fantastic card. Really enjoyed it.
That was a good show, all right. It was very good to watch.
I did think it was kind of funny they gave Conor his Jits brown belt after the fight. Considering he hadn't so much as a headlock to use during the fight.
Yeah. So why not before? You know.
So Cruz has earned himself a title shot with that win, Steve. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I was hoping he would because he didn't lose his belt in the ring.
No.
Or in
the post-fight press conference, actually Dana announced 2 number 1 contenders. Kat Zingano is number 1 contender at women's bantamweight.
Yeah.
And he said Cruz is the next guy for TJ Dillashaw.
Man, that is going to be a hell of a fight, that one.
That's going to be great, yeah. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to Zingano against Rousey. She had some comeback in that fight.
Incredible as well, yeah. I thought she was out in the first round, but yeah.
Serious heart.
Yeah. Okay, who saw Thanks for Sharing?
That was me, actually, Steve.
Tell us about it.
Thanks for Sharing stars Mark Ruffalo. After watching Begin Again a couple of months back, I decided that I would watch anything that had Mark Ruffalo in it. So I saw this in our DVD rental shop and said I'd give it a whirl. So it stars Mark Ruffalo as a recovering sex addict.
Oh.
You might have met him at a meeting, Mike. But it's Tim Robbins is in it as well.
Yeah.
As his sponsor. It is not the greatest film in the world. It was an easy enough way to pass a couple of hours. They kind of, there's some good moments in it. There are some good affecting moments in it, but we learn a lot about addiction, which reminded me a lot. And I don't think I mentioned this in my review last week of A Walk Among the Tombstones. They kept harking back to the 12 steps in A Walk Among the Tombstones.
Right.
Because Neeson's character was a recovering alcoholic. And they did the same thing in this film. They did it better in Liam Neeson did it better. But Thanks for Sharing is a very painless way to pass a couple of hours.
Out of 10?
5. I think it's just average.
Okay. Guys, it's not my fault, right?
Who watched episode 3 of Xeno?
I did.
You sad
I know, I couldn't help myself.
You need a support group, Steve.
I know, yeah. The Z Nation support group.
My name is Steve. I've watched the full first season.
Did you not get enough slagging last week?
I know, yeah. But I kind of saw it was on, and I was just like, okay.
You were alone and vulnerable.
But I just. Yeah, it's so crap.
How could it hurt?
I know, exactly.
Nobody will ever know.
You know, it makes
just
sense.
one more.
Yeah. Stop fighting it. So anyway, watch that. Yeah, yeah. It's still terrible, but anyway. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Sean, season 2.
Yes, season 2 premiered last week, and
Sean,
the episode.
If you don't mind not spoiling season 1, I haven't finished it yet. I'm sorry.
I won't at all. No, I won't at all. Season 2, episode 1 was almost like a microcosm of the first season in the way the episode was paced. In that it had a lot of setup, And then immediately everything went fucking crazy. And there was some incredibly dark moments and scenes that don't look anything like the first half of season 1. Like, at all. There are scenes in it that have more psychologically dark content than about 90% of other TV shows that are just on air right now. I'm including all of them, like literally. And delivered in very sincere and like, we're not saying this just to freak out. This is just character. This is a thing that's happening. So that happened, and then there was some really cool special fucking effects. And we got to see a character from the comics that I really liked and never thought would work on screen, but it was great. Also, Lucy Lawless is in it now, and that's class.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So thumbs up from me.
So it's a thriller, huh? Simpsons Family Guy crossover.
Yes. Okay, so the Simpsons Family Guy crossover was a fine idea. Both shows have been getting steadily worse. I think that's the consensus of everyone, right? In the world. At least that's what I seem to have picked up on. So I thought the same way that like a fighter in a big, big fight does the best preparation he possibly can and works to be the best he can possibly be, I thought that the two shows would be better given how important this would be and how much media coverage it was going to get. However, instead what I got was a lot of lampshading, as in pointing out things that were bad or purely for marketing purposes to try and excuse them, which is, you know, funny and meta, but it's not interesting or good. Saying that you know this is a bit shit doesn't excuse you from being a bit shit. So the episode was pretty much just an excuse to have commentary about how Family Guy is essentially copying The Simpsons, but is doing it in a more gonzo way. The only truly interesting thing that I saw from it was to see other writers writing about Springfield and its characters, and to see what it was like when Bart and Lisa, etc., who have kind of lived fairly sheltered lives, despite the like wacky antics of The Simpsons, to come up against the kind of jokes that Family Guy just throws around about cutting and torture and stuff like that. And to just have those characters just go, oh God, you know what, Stewie? I think I'm just going to go hang out over here. I'm not going to worry about it. But beyond that, it just seemed overloaded. It was like the Expendables of cartoons. There you go.
Right.
Completely pointless and sad. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think it's worth a watch? Just.
I wish I could have stopped after 20 minutes. They made it a 40-minute thing, but I was determined to get to the end of it.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, no. The best parts of it are cameos from other Fox animated characters, like Bob from Bob's Burgers, or someone from American Dad.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is sad to say.
Filler.
Definitely filler. Yeah, I will not be going back watching either of those shows anytime soon, which is unfortunate.
Mike, you saw lots of episode 2s.
I did. Catch up TV. Because we'd reviewed a bunch of these things a few weeks ago, and they've only just started on Sky. So I'd series linked everything.
Yeah.
And I sat down. I said, okay, let's see if this was any good after we'd watched them, you know. So I had a look at The Last Ship.
Fight Chip.
Yeah, The Last Fight Chip.
Yeah.
Doing some fighting stuff.
Yeah.
Fucking loved it. Yeah. I was a bit worried where to go in the second episode.
Yeah.
But when I got to the final scene of the second episode, yes!
Yeah.
Fucking love this.
This is the one with Rona Mitra.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And several others that we interviewed at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen those interviews, they're on our website.
Eric Dane.
Yeah.
Good friend of Sean.
Yeah.
Best buds. Love that guy.
BFF. Also had a look at The Strain. I was a bit worried about that one when we looked at it first. Because of the whole caricature of the main character with the give me some milk and all this kind of crap. But thankfully they dropped that.
They did, yeah.
In the second episode, and then, yes, really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely up for that one.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Oh yeah, The Leftovers. This one I was really excited about.
Oh God.
Because I had no idea where they were going to take it.
Yeah.
And I just loved where they took it.
Really?
Yeah, because nobody on the show seems to have any idea what the hell is going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just the most confused show I think I've ever seen. So I really, really enjoyed just watching people struggle with what they're supposed to think about the world and what the hell is going on around them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did it leave you with a cliffhanger for episode 3?
I wouldn't say so much a cliffhanger, but just a series of things that I want to see more of. There's not just one character that I'm kind of interested in. There's a whole lot of people that think, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. I totally bought into it.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So you're going to watch the rest of it?
Yeah, I think that's my autumn viewing, more or less.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's sorted.
Okay, very good. Sean, you saw something else this week?
Oh, yes, indeed I did, Steve. I got a chance to watch a new series that actually premiered and is available right now on Vimeo. A new series called Wedlock, which is about Dave and Fiona, a so-called perfect couple, except for the fact that they're not a couple at all. They're friends who simply decide that, you know what, we fit together on paper. Let's try and force ourselves to become sexually and romantically attracted to each other. So they recruit a relationship therapist, played by Rob Corddry, to try and help them create a successful romantic relationship, or at least to make it happen. So I actually got the chance to sit down and discuss the show with the creator and the female lead. Jennifer Lafleur is her name. So why don't you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy our interview right now. I'm here with Jennifer Lafleur from the series Wedlock. Wedlock is a story about two friends, a man and a woman, who decide that they should just be together, and they enlist a couples counsellor, therapist, played by Rob Corddry, to try and shove them together in a series of eccentric and funny ways. So, hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that I got through that synopsis. I'm very proud of myself.
You did it. You won.
And everything after this is easy.
All freestyling after this.
Yeah. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you about in terms of Wedlock is stories about love and relationships are something that we've been making movies and everything about forever. But I think Wedlock, given that the pilot episode is called Modern Love, is one of a host of new shows trying to explore how people even relate to each other nowadays and try and achieve some form of happiness or companionship with each other. Do you want to talk a little bit about how much of that was in your head while doing Wedlock?
Yeah, I think we come from a generation that is very driven in their goals, and there is the sense that if we don't do it the way that it's supposed to be, then we have failed, that we haven't succeeded. You know, if you don't meet the right person who's the love of your life and get married and have children and be in a secure job by the age of 29, then you failed. You've just thrown a mess of your life. And that's something that, you know, I think is a little loosier-goosier in a place like Los Angeles, which is where the episode takes place, where the series takes place, rather. And so, you know, I'm kind of amused by the thought that people try so desperately to fit within the confines of what society thinks is right and wrong. And we decided to take that to the extreme version and create two characters who have decided that no matter what, they will succeed. They will fall in love. They will get married, and they will have their happily ever after, no matter what. And they put a lot of time and effort and discussion into it. They choose each other to do this with, and then they need somebody to help them enact it. So obviously, they go to the most world-renowned marriage therapist to make that magic happen. And I think they believe wholeheartedly that Dr. J really will be able to make it happen. You know, they just need a little bit of therapy to fall in love. That's all you really need.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not pills, it's probably going to be therapy. And if it's not therapy, then just, you know, try it again.
I ask, basically make it.
Yeah, can I ask, do you think that part of the DNA of the show, or maybe just the underlying message, is that people should try and be more okay with being okay by themselves?
I think that is true in life itself. I think it's a reflection. The kind of comedy that I like is a reflection on how humans actually really behave in their world, but heightened to an extreme degree. And that's what Dave and Fiona represent to me, are, real feelings that people have inside of themselves, and then, multiplied by a million. But I think it's really important for people just to, sit back and be able to laugh at the parts of themselves that they might recognize a little bit in these clearly insane characters, and just give themselves a break and lay back and let life happen the way that it's supposed to happen, and be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely poking fun at actually silly behaviours that we've all just decided, no, that's not silly, that makes sense. That's cool. Keep going after that relationship.
Our director, Ross Partridge, likes to say that each of these characters is only a couple clicks off from who we really are as people for each of the actors, which I don't know if is necessarily true as far as a couple clicks, maybe 5 or 6 clicks off. But I definitely have a lot of that perfectionist drive in Fiona that Fiona has, where I just want things to go by the book and to be the way that they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be that way. And I have a little control freak in me also. So.
Yeah, to be honest, whenever I hear a character described the way that you've just described Fiona, or the way that I've seen descriptions of her online, I always get worried. And my mind immediately flashes back to Monica, to Courtney Cox, and go, oh, it's going to be the fun controller in the comedy. But I really didn't get any of that from your portrayal. It was just more someone who has an indomitable will and will do whatever it is they decide that they want to, and believes that with a confidence that is endearing and antagonizing.
Yeah, totally.
Can I ask, do you think that we're always going to keep coming back to these stories about love and finding the one person?
I mean, love is the great mystery of our lives, isn't it? I mean, there's so many books and films and television shows written about it, because it's something that we're constantly on the quest for. Even when we have love and we're in relationships with people that we really love, we're always looking for the deeper connection and the more romantic or the more beautiful version of it. And, in some ways it's really unhealthy, because it sets up these completely idealistic and unrealistic views of love and romance that makes it incredibly hard for you to compete with what you imagine it should be. But I don't think that we will ever move away from wanting to tell stories about love or explore those concepts, because it's such a huge part of who we are as people and what we all want. And I think ultimately what we all want is to love and to be loved. I feel like that's kind of the number one emotion that resides in everybody in the world.
Definitely. And I think something that I'm interested in, especially when there are so many stories about love out there, especially when if you hear the term rom-com, there are so many things that go along with that in your head, and expectations even of plot. Do you want to talk a little bit about how Wedlock conforms in some ways to that, and how it also subverts those, we'll call them genre restrictions?
Yeah, I think Wedlock is an un-rom-com. As Entertainment Weekly said, it is the least romantic web series ever, which is exactly what we were trying to accomplish. Which is kind of funny, because I am about as mushy as it gets. I love the sweeping romance. Give me a Jane Austen book any day. Give me a Jane Austen movie. I will watch it 17 times. So it's kind of ironic that I was one of the creators of the proclaimed least romantic web series ever. But I think that's fun. I think it's interesting to come at different themes from all different directions. To make it the most unbelievably beautiful romance in one story, and to make it the most contrived and controlled romance ever. And it's fun and it's interesting to play with those genres. So we are an un-rom-com.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So, switching gears a little bit now, Fiona is very much the drive of the action. In my opinion, like the instigator of how things begin and how things start to come about, at least in the first few episodes of the series. And often women are kind of relegated to instead being the objective rather than the people trying to reach the objective, especially in any kind of relationship-based story. Do you want to talk a little bit about the landscape of, roles for women, or maybe just of acting as a woman in Hollywood?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Fiona is such a strong, driven character because that's what happens when the actress who plays her gets to create the show. So, I think that the landscape of women working in film and television and digital media is rapidly changing. It very quickly became part of the dialogue that's happening every single day, where people are recognizing that women are smart and funny and interesting and can span as much, if not more, emotional range as the next man. And I think that the more we take it into our own hands and not wait for the next person to create opportunity for us, the more women who find films to direct or write their own projects or create projects that star a female protagonist, the more we put ourselves into the world, the more it's going to just happen much more naturally. Because right now, it is very male-dominated. There are so many more male roles than there are female roles. But, with every project that comes across my computer, I guess you could say that, but it's all digital now, there's a shift towards it being more female-driven. And it doesn't need, every project doesn't need to be driven by a female character, but the more balance that we start to see, I think it's going to create dynamic and imaginative and interesting stories that people are going to connect to and want to watch. And I want to be a part of that, and I know that all the women that I work with also want to be a part of that. And a lot of men that I know also want to be a part of that. And everybody's working together to see what stories we can make that are going to be compelling to the audiences and how we can feature both men and women equally in those stories.
I mean, that would make sense. It is pretty much a 50-50 split in the world as we know it. So that's, I think that makes sense to me. So what kind of roles, what kind of projects are you considering next? Are you thinking of creating more of your own content? Or is there anything you can talk about?
I'm always thinking about creating my own content. I'm in the midst of trying to get the rights to a book that I won't talk about unless it actually happens. And I am quite literally throwing clothes into a suitcase as we speak because I get on a plane tomorrow morning to go to Ohio to shoot a film that is actually written by a young man. I think he is 24, I want to say. This is his first feature. He's had some great shorts that premiered at South by Southwest, which is where we met. We hit it off, we got to talking, and he wrote this script for me and two other actresses. It's very female-driven, and again, he's a dude, and he wanted to create something that featured a much more feminine side and perspective. So it's two daughters and their mother, and they're all estranged from each other, and how they find their way back to becoming a family, whatever that means to them. So that's the next project that I'm doing. And the project that I have coming out very soon is called The Midnight Swim, which features three sisters that play alongside Lindsay Burge and Alexa Palladino. So there's been a lot of really female-driven stories that I've been involved with over the past year, which is why I feel hopeful and excited rather than frustrated and bitter about the state of females working more prominently in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as there's another 24-year-old for me to be jealous of, I think everything's going to work out fine.
Yeah, totally.
So how about we wrap up? How about we end with an easy one? And it's been really lovely talking to you. You seem cool. So
you seem cool too.
Well, thank you. And now that I have that recorded, you can never take it back. So let's just end in with an easy one. Is love real?
What's that?
is love real? Can we find it? I find it? Can we all find it?
Love is so real. Love is everywhere. You just have to open your eyes and open your heart, and it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. We create our own families around us between the people that we create relationships and friendships with, and I hope that everybody finds love the way that I have, and that I hope that you have, or that you will very soon. But love is what makes the world go round.
Oh, well, how about that for a lovely message for our disenfranchised, huddled and unwashed listeners. Wonderful. Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, and good luck with Wedlock. I'm dying to get back to it and start to watch you do things that make me uncomfortable and nervous about my own behaviors.
Cool. I'll be right there with you. Don't worry.
So Jennifer, big thanks to her. Very down to earth, and it was great that we got to talk a little bit about just hopefully an uptrend in the amount of diverse roles, diverse relatable roles being made available for women nowadays. Because she essentially had to come up with her own content.
All right.
To find a role that was as zany and wacky and allowed her to act with as much gusto as everybody else, as opposed to being someone's sister or someone's wife.
Yeah.
And she was really a big benefit to the show. So it's, there's 6-minute or so installments, on Vimeo, which you can buy for about $1 each. And each one, I was worried it would get repetitive because each one is essentially a session with the counselor where they've come up with their own idea about, hey, we decided this is what we're going to do this session. So just let us. And I was worried that would get played out. But the second they bring out the dolls that they used to talk to each other exclusively in one episode, without seeing those actors at all, I was hooked. I was like, yes, cool. This will work for me because they come up with enough innovation in it. And they do push the boundaries, and examine something that I worry about a lot, which is, I think people are a little obsessed with getting all of the elements to a good life. Just, once they have them, it doesn't really matter with who or how, as long as they can tick that box, be that a relationship or whatever, So I like the way they examine that because it could have been too navel gazing or it could have been ridiculous, bargain basement Will Ferrell. But instead, I think it was its own thing. So I really liked it. I would call this thriller and would advise people to go to Vimeo right now and watch it.
Cool. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That's Wedlock.
Very good. Okay, let's talk about the first of our movies, which is Dead Snow 2. Who put this on the list?
This was me.
Tell us.
This was me. Well, Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead, the sequel to Dud Snow, also known as Dead Snow. It takes up the action right after the events of the previous film. Nazi zombies have just murdered a bunch of people to get back their gold. So this begins with our lead character desperately trying to escape them and not getting out in one piece, shall we say. And the movie essentially just looks at how a ragtag band of characters are going to save a town in Norway from these Nazis who are going to try and fulfill a mission that they never accomplished in life.
Yeah.
Excellent synopsis.
Yeah. I was never a horror or zombie fan, until I started doing this podcast. And it just struck me how much you guys just turned me into a twisted person. I mean, I'm still watching Z Nation, for God's sake. And now I absolutely loved this. I absolutely loved it. It was just fantastic. It was, it wasn't just a slash horror fest. It was a horromedy. It's fantastic.
That's a genre now.
It is indeed, and I laughed loud and I laughed a lot at this. And I think my wife was kind of a bit disgusted at me when I explained to her what I was laughing at when she asked me when I tried to explain it, because it is quite brutal, and they're quite creative in this movie in how zombies can be disposed of, and they're kind of creative in its brutality, and they're creative in its comedy, and it's all just so wrong, you know. It's. I mean, I thought they were going to draw the line at certain places, but they went way past the line. I mean, fucking way past the line. Like normally in these things, you see like there are people getting killed and stuff, and then you see some kids and you go, okay, there's the line, and you go, nope. They're going straight through them. You know, it's just anything is game in this. You know, yep. It's you know, another thing about this is that it doesn't slowly build up like you would have in your classic cabin in the woods type of movie where there's, you know, a bit of a getting to know people and then sort of a bit of a, oh, we're having such great fun, and then, oh, there's a noise, and sort of, and then it builds up to a crescendo of like, you know, 20 to 30 minutes of, you know, screaming and killing and, you know, blood splatter and all the rest. Whereas this, it's, you know, it's like the director went, you know, okay, lights, camera, turn everything up to 11. Everyone hold on to something and go, you know, and it just escalates straight from there, and it just keeps going. It's whatever, what is it, an hour and 40?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And, yeah, it's pretty intense, but it's just so funny. I can't see this, I can't call it a horror, really. It's just a comedy. It's just a comedy, but you really do need a certain type of humor. There's a lot of people that I would never suggest this to.
Yeah.
I'd definitely suggest it to you guys, you know, and I've suggested, yeah. And there's a few other people I've suggested to that, but I know that they've kind of got that kind of sense of humor, you know.
Yeah. Is it something in their eyes you can tell?
You kind of have to know people a while before you know, that kind of way, you know. But, because there's some people that just wouldn't get this, wouldn't see the comedy in it, would probably feel quite sick at times watching this, because like I say, the creativeness and the brutality is certainly there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So what do you think of this, Mike?
I actually saved up the first one. It was on the horror show a few weeks ago, so I had it recorded. So I watched one after the other.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated the continuity.
All right, yeah.
Because the ending of the first one seems kind of final.
Yeah.
It's a little bit open, but the implication is it's over. And yet they take a ludicrous way out to continue the story into movie 2. And I like the fact that they were willing to just say, yes, this is ridiculous, but fuck it, let's go with it, you know?
Yeah.
I also liked the way they made use of one of the characters from the first movie, quite obviously in the second movie.
Yeah.
Just as a different person.
Yeah.
I have the same face, but I'm here.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And again, it was just having fun with it. It's like, yeah, fuck it, we know he was in the first movie, but now he's someone different. As you said, lots of creativity in use of entrails, etc.
Yeah. Some of the funniest moments involved entrails, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, my highlight scene in this, I think, was his attempt at CPR outside the. There's a scene in a hospital, and then there's a scene outside the hospital, and they're just hilarious. They're hilarious. They're just they just really caught me off guard. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Actually, it kind of caught me off guard in a sort of kind of a way that you sort of get from Army of Darkness.
Yep.
You know the way that's kind of a comedy horror. It is a comedy horror as well. It's a very similar, I guess, when I think about it. But it's that kind of oh God. You know, and it keeps ramping up, and you just keep, oh God.
Yeah, like yourself, I was a little bit shocked at just how far they went in certain scenes. No, you did not fucking just do that. You did. You fucking did it. Yeah, and I did feel a little bit guilty for laughing at said scenes.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah.
But
very funny.
Yeah. But not for everybody. I'd say Mark might have struggled with this.
Mark.
I absolutely loved this film.
Did you?
From start to finish, I loved it. I was laughing along. Steve, you hit an awful lot of the points about the film, I think, in your review, so I'm not going to go over it. The first film won 4 Scream Awards. Among them was Best Horror Movie and Most Memorable Mutilation. I think it definitely is in the running for a couple of awards at this year's Scream. So I don't know, but this film was part funded by Indiegogo, which is like Kickstarter.
Oh, wow, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So the director, Tommy Wirkola, who did Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, he was the guy behind the camera on that. Basically said that the premise of their Indiegogo or their Kickstarter was that they needed more blood. So they're telling fans that they're going to keep the funded going right up until they stop filming, and they always need more blood. So think of it as being a blood donor. So it obviously worked because we got to watch the film, and it's I'm glad you mentioned Army of Darkness as well, because the other thing that this film might have in common with that is it could quite easily attain cult status.
Yes, I think so.
Because it's not to everybody's taste, but it is so good in its quirkiness. Yeah. And again, I don't want to go over the ground you've covered. I think you've explained exactly why it's so quirky. They push the boundaries so far. But like if I wasn't a huge fan of the first film, it had subtitles. They fixed that. That was the first thing they had to change. They did that. So now they have a chance at breaking the world market. They were never going to do that with subtitles.
Interesting how they did that. They filmed it in Norwegian and then filmed it in English.
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you look at the trailers on YouTube, you'll see, it's done in both. Yeah.
So
that's very good.
We haven't seen.
Yeah, there's
because
subtitles. Yeah,
slightly different camera.
Something like 140,000 people saw the first film in Norway, so they didn't want to alienate that base for sure. And I was wondering actually about that.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, if you're a businessman.
Yeah.
John.
Oh, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Norwegian connection.
Yeah.
I think that there's a second layer of comedy operating throughout with the visiting Americans of the Zombie Squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also just the Norwegians reacting to the Americans and reacting to everything in what I can only presume is a very Norwegian way. Cause there's even a joke about being from a very particular part of Norway. And I have no idea if I'm being made fun of when they make that joke, as if they're saying it. And there's actually no saying about being from like northern Norway, but I would have no fucking clue of being able to tell that. And there's even the Nazi thing barely comes up, except obviously in the visuals very frequently. But it has maybe my favorite, maybe this isn't even okay to say, but it has maybe my favorite Nazi joke ever, which is an incredibly subtle thing, involving, without giving it away, but involving a bystander who gets almost caught up in some of the carnage caused by Martin, played by Vigar Hole, who I thought was doing a great job throughout to just not know how to react. Throughout he was just like, I can't believe I just did that. Sorry, I have to leave immediately.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, the one thing they don't make fun of throughout it, like the one like genuinely horrifying sad thing that keeps popping up is someone who was killed in the first film, not by a zombie. And that keeps popping up, and I'm like, you know, it's weird, they've put that in its own place and they're not like interacting with that in any way, they're not making fun of it. Which caused an amount of tension which I believe was delivered upon quite well when it comes to the final confrontation. And yeah, I agree with everything Steve and everybody else has been saying. I was laughing right up till even during and after the credits.
Yeah, did you say till after the credits?
I did indeed.
You did, yeah.
Is one of them in Avengers?
Yeah, there's a nice little bit there after the credits. Yeah, it's worth staying for. It was kind of weird to have a zombie film that was almost entirely in daylight, I thought.
Yeah.
And kind of weird to have a film called Dead Snow with no snow in it. Yeah, I love this. And I think if you've got half a mind to go and see it, go and see it. Yeah. Oh, Sean, it was great to see your likeness again in the movie.
Oh, cheers, yeah.
Martin
Starr.
Yeah.
shaved his beard off, just go bopping around killing zombies.
That's one thing I wanted to hear you guys, your opinion on it. Did you think there was a need for the zombie squad?
Yes, I think that worked very well.
Yeah, but why?
They're hilarious for starters.
Oh yeah, no. Granted, but I'm just wondering if you thought there was an actual need to have that side of the story in it.
Because there's a real danger of more of the same in a sequel, and that totally shook up the characters that you had to look at. The first one, you have 6 Norwegian med students, so they definitely don't want another bunch of med students for the sequel. So what better thing than to get a bunch of foreigners in, plus the continuity from the first.
Fair point.
I thought.
Yeah.
Not to mention that expanding the nationalities, you're appealing to those nationalities as well, you would think. I was going to mention before about, as I didn't know that they'd filmed it again in Norwegian, but when I was thinking watching it, like I said, of course, if you're a businessman and you have a tiny market like Norway, no offense, Norway, and then you have the option of trying to pitch something to the States, which is a huge market, what should you do? Of course, you should put it in English and bring in a few American characters. But it's good that they did stick to where they know which side their bread was buttered, to use the Irish expression, and then they pandered to the Norwegian crowd as well by keeping it there for them. So I was glad to hear that.
And if you're going to try and make your film a cult movie, it's not a bad idea to put in the movie a real life organization, who I've met members of, the Zombie Squad, who go to almost every comic, science fiction, fantasy convention, at least in America, if not everywhere. Like, those guys have given me free blood before.
We are so into like the 5th geek layer. I did not know that was a real thing. So there's an actual Zombie Squad and you've met them.
So the Zombie Squad is actually, it's the organization isn't 3 people. It's a bunch of different people, and none of them actually, from what I've seen, none of them think zombies are real. They're just into disaster preparedness and use zombies as the big clusterfuck to kill us all. So they go, if you can be ready for that, you can be ready for anything.
So are you signed up as an affiliate member now, or?
Oh yeah, no, I'm on the forums.
Yeah.
There's actually a bunch of different threads about whether or not MMA would help versus zombies. Very split camp. It's a very split camp. I think not that much, but the conditioning your body would have gone through would probably be quite helpful.
Yeah, run faster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah. Just one last thing I'd like to say is I thought it was great that they managed to make you feel sorry for a zombie. Probably not since Bub in Dawn of the Dead, the Romero one.
Oh God, yeah. It was such a classic comedic addition.
Yeah,
it was just brilliant. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. So we'll mark it. Can we give it an 11? An 11 out of 10. No, I think I'm going to give this a serious 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a big number, Steve.
It is a big number. I really, really enjoyed it, and it made me laugh. Like, no movie has made me laugh this much in a long time. Like genuine laugh out loud. I don't know how many times. Yeah.
I was thinking 8, but having recently watched the first one again, I liked the first one better. And I think I liked it better because it was just a little bit scary, whereas the second one, they've gone full comedy. So I'm going to give it a 7. I did enjoy it.
7. Okay. Mark?
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't come to me next. When you said 8,
yeah, I
was a little bit taken aback. But then I started thinking about it and I said, well, what are you really taking away from it? Like, why wouldn't it be an 8? I tried to look at it from the devil's advocate view. Like, the performances were good. The comedy was really, really good. It's such an enjoyable film and the time just flies by. I think it's still just a 7 for me, but a 7 is a really high mark. Like, it's way above average. I think the only reason I wouldn't give it an 8 maybe is it isn't exactly my cup of tea, and I think you were expecting me to dislike it a bit more because of that. But, you know, that probably speaks to the unilateral appeal of this film. But I think it's a really, really good film, and it's a 7 for me.
John?
Because of how much they push the limit, and because I can't really think of anything to take away from it, I'm with you, Steve. I'm going to give it an 8.
It's a good reason. Yeah, I think we like this. I think this is the highest average mark we've given anything this year.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Bar the Lego movie. Yeah. So next up, we've got the first of our TV, which is The Driver. Excuse me. So according to BBC's The Driver, being a taxi/private hire driver is a pretty dangerous and soul-destroying occupation, where your family will be constantly embarrassed by you. Vince McKee feels like he's coasting in life and happens upon an opportunity via a very dodgy friend to make some extra money. This turns out to be working for a certain mob boss or gang boss, Colomini.
Yep.
Yeah. As he's looking for a driver with a particular set of skills.
That's right.
Yeah. So then he embarks on a tale of underworld shenanigans and domestic lies, and so it starts to unravel from there.
Yeah.
So what do we think, Mark?
I'm not a huge fan of miniseries.
Yeah,
they're not really my speed.
This is a 3-part.
I like,
isn't it?
Yeah, I like movies that tell us a story in a couple hours, and I like TV shows that never answer the fucking question for some reason. But miniseries just seem to hit that fucking. It's the opposite of the Baby Bear's porridge, whatever that is. They're in the middle, but it's all fucking wrong. Anyway, that aside, this is not a bad miniseries at all. The problem with the first episode that we watched, and I'll talk about the rest of it after that, is there was an awful lot of setup. Like you've synopsized right up to minute 50 of the show almost. And it's a fair synopsis because you've told people what to expect. And I knew what to expect going in because I'd read a synopsis as well. Yeah. And they make it pretty clear at the start that it's fairly likely they did the old in medio terra start where you start in the middle of the whole shenanigans. So you know that he's going to wind up doing stuff maybe in his car he shouldn't. And then they spend 35, 40 minutes going, right, look at him. No, he's a good guy. He's not a criminal. He's a good guy. It's events transpiring against him. Don't hate him now. And is that the governor from Walking Dead, the taxi driver?
It is indeed David Morrisey.
He looks so different. I couldn't get over how different he looks. But anyway, he's really good. He's really good. Colomini's accent was really off in this. He didn't come across authentically to me at all. He kind of moved between the character he played in the van and Chief Miles O'Brien from Deep Space Nine for me in this one.
He didn't quite sound Manchurian, really, did he?
Definitely not. He gave it a shot in a couple of words, and then he'd be back to just look. I'm fucking Colomini. This is how I talk. Like he's good, but it just I'm wary of saying for an actor of his renown that he mailed it in, but it's not the best Colomini I've seen, to be honest, and it seemed at times a long way from it. But anyway, the show itself is very good. I think they build the family and the other characters around that all have their own emotional resonance. The cliffhanger at the end is very predictable. I didn't watch the next episode, but I know what's just happened. I thought, and I don't think they were trying to conceal it too much because they want you to go, oh fuck, can't believe this is happening. There's going to be so much trouble next episode. I must tune in and see what's going on. So it probably was meant to be a little bit predictable just to keep us interested. No, decent. Very decent show. I'm not going to watch any more because there's just not enough hours in the week. But if I found myself at a loose end and it was on, I wouldn't switch the channel.
Yeah. Sean?
I think all of the broad strokes of this show are incredibly cliched and traditional. Particularly the beginning and the end, which Mark already touched on.
The beginning, like again, 4 weeks.
Yeah, let's start like, later, and then we'll catch up to it, and because that's new. And then the ending as well. The ending kind of pissed me off, because I was like, I don't like that I currently know more than the main character, because that's shit. Like, I want him to know this, and I either want him to know it, or I want it to be very clear. So I actually didn't even think it was that ambiguous, whether it was a case of, oh, is this the person you think it is? I just thought it was vague, as in like, you probably know who this is, but he doesn't, so listen, don't worry about it. I thought that was shit, because that's not going to get me to watch another episode. However, Everything in the middle and the way that they did all these things, in particular, I thought was very, very sincere and funny a lot of times, and kind of heartbreaking in a really slow British way. If you're going to try and do Breaking Bad in Britain about a taxi driver, take off the taxi off it and just let him be, I bring scary things and packages places. There's a lot of places where you could look very, very bad in comparison. But luckily, the stuff that they went with was much more relatable and you know what, I get that. That is shit when people just don't, like people fucking with you at your job. That's shit, and everyone has to deal with that. So that was done quite well, I thought. And everything with the family was a very believable version of life in X amount of years for anyone. If they just let life take them away, where they don't stick their heads up out of the sand and look around every once in a while. So I thought that was great. The band of criminals are hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Colomini, the one running joke they gave him about the quotes, that's funny. That was funny for me. And I liked, there's one of the bad guys who's clearly not trusted as much as the other ones, and he makes the tea and stuff. And he has a great scene, and I would watch him in loads of other stuff based on the one scene where he tells David Morrisey, listen, don't ask questions. And then proceeds to tell him more than he fucking should about what's going on. I liked that. And I really loved seeing him be happy in the very middle, right before he starts to fuck up shit. And a little bit after as well. I was like, you know what, David Morrisey, you lost an eye. You've obviously put on a bunch of weight. You've been eaten and savaged by humans and zombies alike. I hope things work out for you, while being told by the show that they definitely fucking won't. So, I don't know. Unfortunately, the things we remember are the beginnings and endings, because that's how brains work. So, I'm a little on the fence about this one. I hope you two guys can persuade me one way or the other.
Well, as you both mentioned, the whole 4 weeks earlier thing at the very beginning just put me on a downer. It's like, fuck. But then what they were doing, I thought they did reasonably well. Your man Morrisey, I hated as the governor, but I quite liked him in this.
Yeah.
I didn't think Colomini was all that bad.
The horse.
I thought it would have been better if he was called Horse instead of Horse. But as it went on, I kind of started to get into it, and then it lulled. And it's not because, bad acting or even a particularly bad script. I just was struggling to hold the interest. And then I went ahead and watched the second episode.
Did you?
Yeah. And after about 20 minutes, I was kind of, I've had enough.
Really, yeah?
Yeah. So the things that were kind of starting to bore me in the first episode really started to bore me in the second episode, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well that's kind of answered my question on the second episode, yeah, because I think I was on the teetering on the fence for a change, yeah. And because I kind of liked it, and I wasn't sure, and I was like, will I watch another one? But if you're saying it was only 20 minutes in and you kind of left it, I think I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, I think I'd kind of made up my mind that I wasn't going to watch episode 2, because, like Mark said, not enough hours in the week.
I think it's just to put it in perspective. I had watched so many great episode 2s this week.
Yeah.
That one wasn't meeting expectations.
Yeah.
What can you do? Swing and a miss.
Yeah, so it's filler from you.
Yep.
I presume it's filler from Mark.
It's close to the edge. It's not a bad TV show. It really isn't. But no, it's filler for me. I'm not going to watch anymore.
And Sean?
I'm afraid so. It's just too bloated a landscape of TV for this to be called something that I go, definitely watch that show.
Yeah.
So that makes it filler.
Yeah, I think, I'm the same too. Yeah.
The streak is on.
Okay, so next up we have the second of our movies, which is The Equalizer. Mark.
So The Equalizer, based loosely on the 1980s BBC TV show starring Edward Woodward, having one of the funnest names in TV. A man believes he has put his mysterious past behind him and has dedicated himself to beginning a new, quiet life. But when he meets a young girl under the control of ultra-violent Russian gangsters, he can't stand idly by. He has to help her. So, if you think about the synopsis that IMDb gratefully provided for that film, a lot of films would fit right into that synopsis.
Yeah.
So, thematically, I suppose the most successful recent franchise would be the Taken franchise that has a lot of themes and similar to this. It's also quite similar to a film called Death Wish that many of you might remember, which was one of Denzel Washington's first acting jobs. He gets shot very early in the film.
No way.
Death Wish. So I thought that was an interesting parallel. The Equalizer spends a good bit of time on setup. It's not unlike what I said about The Driver a few moments ago. They go through how this guy is. You know, he's basically a pacifist, but he's got a heart of gold, bless him. And just seeing this poor young girl being abused, it's fucking wild hard to watch. You'd have to do something. Sure, you do it yourself.
You couldn't stand idle and watch that.
And that's really important for this film to work, is that you can't just think, look at this interfering prick who just let people get on with their lives and make their own mistakes. So they spend a good bit of time telling you that, look, if he would, if there was any other way whatsoever, he'd lead them to it. But, you know, he stands all he can stand and he can't stand no more. And that's when my main problem with this film starts. Denzel is his usual self. He's really good at showing that he would like to be involved, but it's a bad idea, so he doesn't. Because he does that a few times at the start. He's really good at that. You know exactly what he's thinking just by looking at his face. But as soon as he starts to actually get involved, he is completely fucking superhuman. And he's playing somebody who's essentially retired, right? He's playing someone his own age. He's not playing a young whippersnapper, right? This is not Chris Pine or somebody like that who is just off the farm and ready to hammer lads. Yeah. This is a guy who reads books. He's outlived his wife, so he's a bit on the lonely side. He doesn't work out because there's no time with all the reading and the drinking tea. But you put him in a room with 10 or 12 fit, able, experienced criminals, and he goes through them faster than Conor McGregor would. And that's fine, right? But as the film goes on, much like any good video game, the quality of the opponents increases. But he continues to go through these guys just like the Hot Knife Through Butter he was at the start. And it lost me when that happened. He gets shot a few times just for shits and giggles. Doesn't slow him down. And then there's one time towards the end of the film where he's tired. And that was the worst thing I think that might have happened to him during this film. There's really good characterization in the first act. The second act is really good, but for me, in the third act, I wasn't even slightly worried about him. I knew he was going to hammer everybody he came across because he didn't seem in any way vulnerable at any point. I had the same complaint about Lucy, and I likened her to Superman, how difficult it is to write for someone who's essentially invulnerable. Yeah. But they didn't need to do this. Like they could have. Denzel is more than capable of playing the John McClane of vigilantes. You know, he could have been huffing and puffing and, you know, leaning on stairs because he couldn't make it all the way to the top without a break. Yeah. He could have done all that. Yeah. And you could have at least thought, and just one other point, when you have somebody who's aged, right, and this is going to sound ageist, but they should be beating younger people with experience, not with physicality, because it's not believable. And I'm probably talking about myself to a large degree here too. But he was very smart and he did a lot of smart stuff, but that's not how he won more often than not. He won by just hammering lads. So it kind of lost me when that started happening relentlessly.
From your description, it sounds like it's veered quite a ways away from the original concept of the Equalizer.
Yeah, and that's why I said that it was loosely based on it, because Edward Woodward was that aged hero.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't all action all the time, you know, it was more often brains winning out. And
yeah, exactly. So I think if they'd stayed a bit more true to that, but it was just like, we've seen this setup before where there's somebody like I think this is probably done the best for me anyway in The Long Kiss Goodnight, where somebody has a past that they've forgotten about that enables them to do stuff, right? But if you think back on that, was it Gina Davis?
Gina Davis.
Thanks, Sean. Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson were in dire jeopardy a lot and escaped by the skin of their teeth before they finally won out. That was missing in The Equalizer, and that really impacted my enjoyment of it. Interestingly enough, they knew it was going to be Denzel playing the lead while they were still writing it.
Okay.
And Denzel's very particular. He doesn't like people that waste words. He'd fucking hate this podcast, I can tell you. But so the writer was being told the whole time, right, brief. Keep his dialogue brief. And even though he did that, Denzel still started chopping out words. I don't need this piece. I can do it with just this, and chopping away at the script, which apparently is what he likes to do. But so that's what I think about The Equalizer. So you're probably going to ask me what my mark is, Steve.
Exactly.
The first half is above average, but it dwindles for me. So I think it's just going to be a 5.
5.
It's probably the lowest I've ever marked Denzel because I love that guy. Fucking love that guy. But no, it's just a 5 for me. They just didn't hit the mark. They're trying to make it into a franchise as well. So we could have this uncomfortable conversation again.
Very good. Okay, so next up we have the second of our TV, which is How to Get Away with Murder. Mike, you're going to tell us about this.
This is a bunch of students in a Philadelphia law school with a professor who decides to bring her students in on her cases as part of her teaching method. And 4 of them end up being clever enough to become lead characters in this particular show and somehow kill somebody 3 months later.
Yeah, to do that thing at the start
and
again.
And then we got to rewind all the way back
and
catch up to that killing and find out just why and how it happened.
So what do you think of this, Mike?
Yeah, well, firstly, the whole 3 months earlier thing.
Yeah.
Again, Jesus, stop it.
Yeah.
And then the flash forwards. I was getting a migraine watching this because it wasn't just a flash forward, it was flash, in your face, the way they actually filmed it.
Literally, yeah.
And they left those sequences too far apart, I thought. So you're back in the 3 months earlier land, and you're following the story there, and then there's a flash forward to the incident. But I've almost forgotten it because they've left it so long. And then there's another gap, and they have another flash, and I'm like, what was that about again? Oh, yeah, okay, now I remember, after my eyes stopped hurting, yes.
Poor old Mike, buried under a bottle of whiskey, trying to watch this program. Going, who was that guy again?
So they're all murdered? What do you think of this, Mark?
Well, sure, you know what I'm going to say. This is by Shonda Rhimes, the producer of Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, and Scandal. So I immediately hooked up with my wife and said, right, let's watch this, see what we think. And we have added another show to our weekly repertoire. So my main problem with it was people who are in school aren't as smart as the people in this TV show. And there's a certain thing that's a very strong requirement to do most jobs called experience that these people don't have. But you would swear that if you were smart enough, then sure you could pilot the Enterprise. You don't need to learn anything. And that's not true. You need to spend time learning to be good at that thing you're trying to do for a profession. And that annoyed me. And the expectations of the lecturer were a bit ridiculous. And the way she run the class didn't seem to fit with the way real life works. On the positive side, the characterization was very good. The flashbacks I found, Mike, were quite cohesive and easy to stay with. because they featured a single character in each one and gave you their background, and then flash forward to see where all the trouble was happening. So it developed a cadence for me after a while.
Just on the the young people needing experience, I was sitting there watching it, thinking to myself, would you have a consultant surgeon bringing a bunch of first-year med students in to help out on his operations? I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not believable.
So the knee bones.
No. If you're saying that this trope, also seen in the likes of Grey's Anatomy, is common in Shonda's stuff, I'd agree with you. Yeah. But you need to get young people invested in your show, and that's why she's doing it right. So she's saying this could be you. You could be Grey's Anatomy. You could be this lawyer. But it's not true, and it pulled me out of it a little bit every time something stupid about their college life came up, because I was going, college is not like that. Even postgraduate college, which is what it sounds like those guys were all in. So I did enjoy the flow of the story all the same. I'm interested to find out how they, quote, get away with murder, unquote. And I will watch more of it, despite all those complaints to the contrary.
John?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a young person. And I immediately, the second the competition was set up amongst the class group that we were working with, and they were looking for which 4 people are going to end up working for me, I immediately started to do the challenge that they were doing, despite not being in that fictional world. I immediately started competing and going, I can fucking do this. I bet you I can come up with something that'll work. Fuck yeah, this is great. So it's definitely working in that way. Because I was all set up to fucking hate this show. I was like, oh, is this going to be a procedural? Is it a cop one or it's a lawyer one? Good. Excellent. Now, show me your you're starting later on in the story and flashing back. Oh, great. Good. Yeah. I'm very excited about the next 35 minutes of my fucking life. But they move at such pace in this show, right? I talked about it before, where when you're going to operate within a genre, you can either do it perfectly, or you can try and subvert what people expect you to do in the genre, or you can just make it new somehow. This one is doing it maybe not perfectly, but it's doing it well, and it's moving with such speed that they're like, oh, does this seem cliche? Doesn't matter. Next thing. Guess what? Now there's 2 fucking bodies. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea. And I was actually surprised multiple times in the kind of way where when you don't like somebody or you think someone's a bit stupid, like I felt about this show, and then it starts to do stuff that surprises you and you go, oh, I didn't expect that. Okay, well, yes, that is interesting, but hold on, I'm sure that this was an accident and you can't do that again. And then they have 3 more plot twists in the next 15 minutes. I'm starting to get a grudging respect for the show. So I was actually a little impressed with the way that they went about doing stuff, with the performances. And actually, it's a very diverse cast. Incredibly so. You cannot find, barring, I don't know if he's a recurring guest star or if he's one of the main cast, but you cannot find a single straight white man anywhere within the core group of characters. Which is not true of anything else I can name right now in my head. So I thought that was interesting, and I happen to like a lot of those characters. So yeah, they've gotten a whole season splayed out before you. I think this should be 101 how to do a pilot for a genre show, my opinion.
Still didn't like it.
You know what? I had the same 2 black marks against it as you had, Sean. The whole flashback at the whole start of it was just like, oh God. And it wasn't a bad show. I think the worst bit in it was the overuse of eyebrows for expression. Yes, I'm looking at you, Alfred Enoch or AKA Wes Gibbon.
From the Joey Tribbiani School of Acting.
Did you see him? Every time he was on screen, it was just driving me mad, and it almost completely ruined the show for me. No, really.
You were only watching his forehead.
Seriously, this guy, I can't believe that no one else had noticed this, but there's a lot of suspended disbelief and going on with his eyebrows and eyes. You know, it's always like, huh? I don't, but what? I don't know. I think I hooked on something and then started to focus on it and then really got annoyed with
nitpicking.
Yeah. Well, not nitpicking, but just, I don't know, a bit unreasonable. Yeah, he just had this look of being constantly perplexed or something, you know. But anyway, yeah, I did like the plot twists. I did like the professor.
Mm-hmm,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, she was quite cool in a kind of Tina Turner kind of way. And, I did like the whole courtroom scenes and all that, but will I watch more of it? I probably won't, unfortunately. I don't think I like it enough. Yeah, I probably won't watch anymore. So it's filler for me. Yeah.
You did the confirmation. That was good of you, Steve, to give it a chance
I weighed up what the information you guys have just given me and sort of went, yeah, it sort of doesn't bring me over the other side of the fence, so yeah.
Well, because 7 of the characters are suspected murderers in the first episode, I'm going to give it a thriller.
Mike?
I'm really, really sorry to have expended some of my life force watching this, and there's no way I'm going to proceed further with it. It's a filler for me.
Mark?
Oh, it's a thriller for me, Steve. I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Very good. Can't divide it. I hope everyone at home has made up their own mind. So there we go. A concrete answer for you. Okay. So next up, we've got some previews and Come to a Bicycle near you. First one was Dracula Untold. What did we think of this?
Maybe they're finally going to make a good vampire movie.
You think?
Yeah, could happen.
I'm just delighted to see Dominic Cooper back. Yeah. I don't know. It's. I don't know. I'm.
What's it about, guys? What's the movie about?
Vampires that don't sparkle.
It's about Dracula, the early years, essentially.
Dracula Begins. It does seem like that, and it's set in medieval type times, back when he was Vlad roaming around with his castles and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem overly fond of Turks.
Yeah, this guy Vlad Tepes, his kingdom is under threat, and everyone keeps telling him that they're going to lose and they can't do anything, but he just won't accept that shit because that's not how he rolls. So he climbs what seems like a really high CGI mountain and meets with a really old kind of vampire Nosferatu looking guy. And then there's some weird exchanging of body fluids. And next thing, he's got powers. Man's got skills.
Yeah.
We all know what happens when a man's got skills.
You get
took. He has to.
Yeah.
He has to walk the razor's edge between darkness and light forever.
You sold out, man. You sold your soul.
I'm just really concerned to know if he can retain any vestige of his humanity and compassion.
Well, that'll be fine because they'll probably start it somewhere in the year 2014. We'll see that he's fine, and then they'll flash back to how he got those powers.
So what do you think of this? Will you watch it?
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyone else looking forward to this?
I suppose.
I'm trying to arrange to see this in IMAX. It's coming out when I'm next in the UK. And near where I stay when I'm over with work, there is an IMAX. It's not near, but it's with reasonable distance.
Yeah.
So I'm really going to try and get to it in that format.
Yeah. I'd say it would look really good actually on the IMAX actually. Yeah. It seems to be like a big set movie, you know.
Yeah, a lot of sweeping shots and
armies
sweeping actiony
Yeah.
shots.
Yeah. Okay, the next one we looked at was Ouija.
Ouija.
Sean.
if you haven't seen the trailer for this movie,
Ouija,
where a bunch of kids play with the Ouija board and horrifying things happen, well, lucky for you, you don't need to, because it's exactly what you'd expect. If you never see the movie about these kids playing with the Ouija board, then lucky for you, you don't need to worry about it, because it's exactly what you fucking expect. Why did I spend 1 minute and 48 seconds of my fucking life going, oh, so they play with it, and then there's a haunting, and then, oh, this is really weird. I feel like this trailer is boring as shit, and I could make this movie out of all of the other horror movies.
Sad thing is, I know I'm going to go and watch this on a Sunday afternoon by myself.
I knew you'd love it. I knew you'd love it. Yeah. See, this is the thing that I don't
have to.
This is the thing I don't get with you, because you're not the most spiritual person in the world, right?
Okay.
Right? But yet you love this kind of horror type,
it's a
supernatural thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm just thinking, these guys who love superhero movies, they also have the same problem. Because they know there's no such thing as superheroes. Yet they love the movies. Yeah, okay, ignore me. Yeah,
it's like there's a short circuit in your brain that just goes straight to attend.
Yeah. Anyone else looking forward to it? No. Okay, moving on.
No one's looking forward to it.
I'll tell you all about it.
This movie is not.
Yeah. Okay. The last one we looked at was 71. I bet Mike is going to like this one. A young and disorientated British soldier is accidentally abandoned by his unit following a riot on deadly streets of Belfast in 1971. Trailer looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And this stars the guy that Jack O'Connell. We really, really liked him in Starred Up. Sam Reid is in it, Sean Harris. So, yeah.
Yeah, this looks very iffy. Because you just know, he's trapped behind enemy lines, and probably some of the baddies are going to turn out to be not so bad, and maybe he'll start to associate them with humans.
We know he's going to meet a young boy.
Yeah.
Who meets the soldier from the opposition. Didn't we see this last year in a movie?
Yeah,
in Israel or somewhere, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then, he's either going to end up sacrificing himself to save the person that he started caring about, or else he'll come to, the conclusion that, war is shit and wouldn't be great if we could all just be nice to each other.
I'm on the wrong side. Don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think we've seen this thing before.
So what do you guys think?
This, for me, all rests on the shoulders of the leading man.
Yeah.
Like, this is a movie where I kind of know a little bit about what's going on, and I'm aware of movies like this. But it seems original enough that there's nothing else in it that's really making me have any worry about it. There's nothing in particular that's making me go, ooh, I'm definitely in. But the performance that we saw in Starred Up is making me think, this is what I'm in for.
That's exactly why I would watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Based on his performance in Starred Up. He was so good in it.
Yeah. I'd like to see him do more talking.
Even if it's kind of shit, that he'll carry it,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I think I want to see this. Yeah.
They did do a very good job of making the area look quite epic in scale, to be honest. Like, when I was watching it, I was like, well, this could just be a war movie that happens to be on streets. Like, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Good cinematography.
Very good. That was the last of our previews. So, anything else you want to part with before we depart?
Only that today is the Day of Dread, as in D-R-E-D-D, and that while this will be over by the time our listeners hear about it, hopefully it will be another rousing success where a bunch of people sign a petition, buy merchandise, buy DVDs of the Karl Urban Dread movie, because they want to see a second one, just like me and Mike.
Yay!
You know what they should do is an Indiegogo. There you go. They could put their merchandise money into Indiegogo. And fund
You should get on their team, Steve.
What?
Yeah. You should get on their team. Help them gaze into the fist of dread.
I'm too busy with the Zombie Squad this week, so I won't make it. Okay, so we'll leave it there for this week. Tweet us at isitbicycle.com or email at podcast@isitbicycle.com. So, from Mike, Mark, Steve, and Sean, stay classy.